Today is Saturday, the 15th day of November, and I'm looking at the paper of that state, Wichita Eagle. African American women have come a long way. This is written, I don't know if he's a guest editor or just how it happened it's here in the paper, but it's written by Bill Roy, and the credit down at the bottom says he's a retired physician and former member of Congress who represented Northeast Kansas. African American women have come a long way. Of course, African American men have come a long way, and to tell you the truth, white men, American men, and white American women have come a long way. And yet, since the election, Dot and I have had to be a little quiet when certain people make racially slurring remarks about the new president. This is Kansas, you know, and we're on the north side of the Mason-Dixon line and pretty dadgum proud of it, apparently. Let me get to what the good doctor says. Just as nearly inconceivable for us older Americans to realize that our first family after January 20th will be African American, it is also must be very difficult for Americans under 50 to realize the place of African Americans, especially black women, in our society not so very long ago. So he goes on to say, I'll pursue this historically, the subject of Michelle Obama to the First Lady, from the perspective of someone who lived through those years when black women were at the very bottom of the American social scale. First of all, we must recall that until about 40 years ago, all women, not just black women, all women, were markedly limited in their pursuit of any lifetime role other than homemaker and mother. And he goes on to say, still, that's the most important callings today. But women who wanted or had to work outside the home were essentially limited to teaching, nursing, or clerical and secretarial work. But black women were almost universally excluded from those limited pursuits. For example, I recall seeing my first black department store clerk in Macy's in downtown Topeka in about 1970. If black women worked, and many did, they had to, they worked as domestics, a classification that included maids, cooks, cleaning women, and not much else. They entered the back door. I'm reading. So it was that we had neither black men nor women in my Northwestern medical school class, and only 13 women in classes of 130 students. It took a residency at the city of Detroit Receiving Hospital for me to first work with black doctors and other health professionals. When I began practice in Topeka, most obstetricians were seeing black women only at times when they were not seeing white patients. They did not want to offend their white patients by having black people in the waiting room when they were there. By mid-1960s, that discrimination was history, but the hospital wards were segregated. After conferring informally with my fellow physicians at the hospital, I went to the administrator of Topeka's Stormont-Vale Hospital in 1966 and suggested it was time to integrate our wards. He agreed, and bang, he did it. He later told me he fielded only 2 angry phone calls. At this time, 1960, if a bride wished to have a wedding reception at our local country club and also wished to have a black bridesmaid, she had to choose between the two, because up until 1969, the club did not admit black guests even to private events. I spoke to the country club board. This is the doctor. I'm quoting from him, just reading his article. I spoke to the country club board and was told that, quote, older club members considered the club to be an extension of their living rooms and would be offended by the presence of blacks, and also that the black employees wouldn't like it. That policy broke down soon the next year when the University of Kansas brought a black football coach to the spring golf outing. Now he's winding it up. This week, yes, that was Michelle Robinson Obama, Princeton University and Harvard Law School graduate, whom you saw entering the front door of the White House with her husband. But in the 1950s, not only would she have attended a segregated primary school in Topeka, as an adult woman, she might well have had to see her physician during segregated office hours. If hospitalized before 1966, she would have been placed in a segregated ward. And you would not have seen this distinguished woman entering the front door of the country club, let alone the White House. She would have been left at the church after the wedding and before the reception. His closing line, November the 4th, 2008, was a historic day. It's the end of his article. It's very clear he's saying, without saying it, way to go, America. We're getting there. We've been slow, but we're getting there. We're not really there yet, or I wouldn't be hearing all these things that make me be a little careful of saying, yes, I voted for Obama. I'm proud I voted for Obama. But I'm not particularly interested in getting into arguments about it. Does that make me still part of the problem? I don't know. But God bless America. God bless the voters. It's a good time in terms of human relations to be an American. Oh, how I hope he can do the job and help us heal economically, stature in the world, etc., etc.